What if the reason you do not see your own attractiveness is not because it is missing, but because you have spent too long judging yourself through your insecurities? That is the strange part. Some of the most attractive people are the ones who doubt themselves the most. They look in the mirror and see flaws. They replay awkward moments. They compare themselves to louder, more obvious people. And because of that, they completely miss the quiet signs that others notice immediately. The truth is, attractiveness is not always about perfect features or trying to impress people. Sometimes it shows up in presence, energy, the way people react to you, the way they remember you, and the way your very existence shifts the room before you even say a word. So in this episode, we are going to talk about 10 signs you are attractive, even if you do not fully believe it yet. And if you enjoy this kind of honest, confidence-building content, subscribe to the channel and stay with me. The first sign: people notice you before you speak. One of the clearest signs you are attractive is that people notice you before you even do anything. Before you speak, before you explain yourself, before you try to be funny, charming, or impressive, your presence arrives first. And this matters because real attraction is not always built through performance. Sometimes it is felt immediately, in the way heads turn a little, in the way someone looks twice, in the way a room seems to register you before you have even fully settled into it. If that keeps happening in your life, that is not something to dismiss too quickly. A lot of people miss this sign because they are too busy studying themselves from the inside. They are thinking about how awkward they felt, whether their hair looked right, whether their clothes were enough, whether they seemed confident enough, whether they said something strange. But while they are trapped in self-criticism, other people are simply noticing them. That is the strange thing about attractiveness. You may be fighting your own insecurities while someone else is immediately struck by your face, your energy, your posture, your eyes, or the way you carry yourself without trying. Your self-doubt does not cancel what other people see. And when people notice you before you speak, it usually means your presence is doing part of the work for you. There is something visually or energetically distinct about you. Maybe it is your features, maybe it is your calmness, maybe it is the way you walk, the way you hold eye contact, the way your face stays in people's memory. Attraction is not always loud. Sometimes it is quiet but undeniable. It makes people aware of you before they have a reason. That awareness is often the first signal. This is also why some attractive people feel confused about their own effect on others. They expect attraction to look obvious and verbal. They think, if I were really attractive, people would constantly say it. But that is not how it always works. Very often, attraction appears first as attention, not compliments. People look, people notice, people become slightly more alert around you. People track your presence without meaning to. That is often the real sign, and it can happen even when nobody says a single word about it. You may have seen this in small moments. You enter a place and feel eyes on you before any conversation begins. Someone seems aware of you from across the room. A person who does not even know you keeps glancing in your direction. Even in ordinary settings, your presence gets registered quickly. That does not happen randomly every time. It usually means something about you stands out more than you think. And the reason you may not trust it is simple. You live with your own face every day. Other people do not. What feels normal to you can feel striking to someone else. There is another reason this sign gets overlooked. Attractive people often think attraction must feel confident from the inside, but many times it does not. You can be attractive and still be insecure. Attractive and still self-conscious. Attractive and still blind to your own effect. Inner doubt and outer impact can exist at the same time. So if people keep noticing you before you even open your mouth, stop assuming it means nothing just because you're used to yourself. People do not notice everyone with the same intensity. If they keep noticing you before you speak, your presence is saying something before your words ever do. And that is one of the strongest signs of attraction, because it means you do not need to force attention. You already carry it. The second sign, others get nervous around you. Another strong sign you are attractive is that some people become nervous around you for no clear reason. Their words get a little messy, their energy shifts. They overtalk, look away too fast, laugh more than usual, or suddenly seem less natural than they were a moment before. And if you are not aware of your effect, you may misread that nervousness completely. You may think they are uninterested, awkward, cold, or just strange. But sometimes the truth is much simpler. Your presence is affecting them more than you realize. This happens because attraction does not always make people smooth. Very often, it does the opposite. It makes them self-conscious. It makes them more aware of themselves. Suddenly, they care more about how they sound, how they look, what impression they are making, and whether they are being perceived well by you. That pressure creates nervousness, not because you did anything wrong, but because being around someone attractive can raise the emotional stakes in a person's mind without warning. A lot of attractive people miss this sign because they assume attraction should look like confidence from the other side. They expect charm, directness, and easy conversation. But many people do not become more composed around someone they find attractive. They become less composed. Their normal rhythm changes. They fidget more. They second-guess simple words. They try too hard or suddenly go quiet. So when you notice that certain people seem unusually tense, overly careful, or a little off balance around you, do not rush to assume it is negative. You may have seen this in small moments. Someone starts a sentence, then changes it halfway through. Someone makes eye contact, then breaks it quickly. Someone seems confident with everyone else, but around you they become slightly different. Maybe they talk faster. Maybe they smile nervously. Maybe they seem weirdly formal or overly playful. Those little shifts matter. People usually do not get nervous without a reason, and attraction is often one of the reasons. This is especially true when the nervousness repeats. Not one awkward interaction, but a pattern. Different people doing similar things around you. Different people becoming slightly uneasy, overly aware, or unexpectedly shy in your presence. That pattern says something. It often means your presence carries more impact than you think. And the reason you may not see it clearly is because you are still viewing yourself through your own doubts instead of through other people's reactions. Attraction does not always pull people into perfect confidence. Sometimes it exposes their insecurity instead. So if others get nervous around you, stop assuming it means you are doing something wrong. In many cases, it means the opposite. It means your presence matters more than you realize, and people are feeling it before they know how to handle it. The third sign, you attract attention without trying. One of the strongest signs you are attractive is that attention finds you even when you are not chasing it. You are not forcing a persona. You are not performing. You are not trying to be the loudest person in the room. And still, people notice. They look. They respond. They become aware of you. That matters, because forced attention and natural attention are not the same thing. Anyone can be loud. Not everyone can be quietly noticeable. This is where a lot of people misunderstand attractiveness. They think attractive people always look obvious, dramatic, or socially dominant. But very often, real attractiveness works in a calmer way. It does not need to announce itself. It pulls attention naturally. There is something about the face, the energy, the body language, the presence, or the overall vibe that makes people register you without effort from you. And because you're not trying, you may not even realize it is happening. You can usually see this in small patterns. People look at you even when you are just existing. You walk into a place and become aware that eyes keep landing on you. In conversations, people sometimes focus on you a little more than expected. In group settings, attention drifts back toward you even when you are not speaking the most. None of that means you need to think highly of yourself or become arrogant. It just means your presence has pull. And that pull is often one of the clearest forms of attraction. What makes this sign powerful is the phrase, "without trying." Because when attention comes only after effort, it can be explained in many ways. Maybe the person is being extra loud, extra funny, extra flashy, extra available. But when attention comes before all that, or in the absence of all that, it usually means something more natural is happening. People are drawn to something in you before you have done the work of earning that attention socially. That is not something to ignore too quickly. A lot of attractive people miss this because they are too focused on who gets more obvious attention. The loudest person, the most social person, the one getting all the direct compliments. But attraction is not always that visible. Sometimes it shows up in people repeatedly watching you, tracking you, listening more closely, or seeming more aware of you than the situation really requires. It is subtle, but it is real. And subtle attention is often more honest than loud attention because it happens before people have time to filter themselves. There is another reason this sign gets missed. You may be used to yourself. Your face is familiar to you. Your energy is familiar to you. The way you move is familiar to you. So what feels ordinary from the inside may feel striking from the outside. That is why self-perception is often unreliable here. You are measuring yourself by your own insecurities, while other people are responding to what is simply there. And when that attention keeps happening without effort, it usually means your attractiveness is more visible than you think. So if people keep noticing you, looking at you, or becoming aware of you without any real attempt from you to pull them in, take that sign seriously. Attraction that does not need to chase attention is often the most real kind. Because it means you are not manufacturing presence, you already have it. The fourth sign, people remember you easily. Another clear sign you are attractive is that people remember you more easily than you expect. You may meet someone briefly, say very little, and still leave a stronger impression than you realize. Then, later, they remember your face, your energy, your voice, your eyes, or some small detail about you that you assumed would disappear from their mind. That does not happen for no reason. Attractive people often stay in memory longer, not only because of looks, but because something about their presence leaves a stronger imprint. This is important because attraction is not only about the first glance, it is also about what remains after the moment passes. Some people are noticed quickly, then forgotten just as quickly. But when people remember you, that means your presence had weight. It means something about you registered more deeply, and that can be one of the strongest signs of attractiveness, because memory is selective. People do not hold on to everyone with the same intensity. A lot of people miss this sign because they expect attraction to show up only as compliments or obvious flirting. But sometimes the real sign is quieter. Someone remembers your name when you barely spoke. Someone brings up something you wore weeks later. Someone recognizes you instantly in a different setting. Someone you met once seems to recall you with surprising clarity. That kind of memory usually means you stood out more than you think. And standing out naturally is one of the clearest forms of attraction. There are many reasons this can happen. Maybe your face is striking. Maybe your expression is memorable. Maybe your energy feels calm, warm, mysterious, or distinct. Maybe the way you carry yourself makes people register you more strongly. Attraction is not always about one perfect feature. Sometimes it is about the full impression, the overall feeling a person leaves behind. And that feeling can stay with people even when the interaction itself was short. You may have seen this in small ways. Someone remembers meeting you long after you forgot them. Someone recalls details about you that seem too specific for such a brief interaction. Someone says, "I remember you," in a way that tells you your presence stuck with them. Those moments matter. They often reveal something that your self-criticism keeps hiding from you, that you are more noticeable than you think. This is also why attractive people sometimes underestimate themselves. They live inside their own face every day, so they stop feeling its effect. They hear their own voice so often that it stops sounding distinct. They carry their own energy so constantly that it feels ordinary. But other people do not experience you that way. They meet you from the outside, where your presence is fresh, different, and sometimes surprisingly memorable. That difference between self-perception and outside perception is why many attractive people stay blind to their own effect for years. And being memorable is not something you can fake easily. Loud people can force attention for a moment, but being genuinely remembered usually means something real landed, something about you stayed. That is why this sign matters. It shows that your presence is not passing through people without impact. It is leaving a mark. So if people keep remembering you more clearly than expected, stop brushing that off. Attraction is not always measured by how loudly people react in the moment. Sometimes it is measured by what they still carry after you're gone. And if your presence keeps staying in people's minds, that is a strong sign that there is something about you they feel more deeply than you realize. The fifth sign: strangers are unusually kind to you. Another quiet sign you are attractive is that strangers often treat you with a little more warmth than expected. They smile first. They become more helpful. Their tone softens. They seem more patient, more open, or more willing to engage with you, even when they have no real reason to. And if you are used to yourself, you may miss what is happening. You may think, maybe they are just nice. Sometimes that is true. But when it happens often, it usually means your presence is creating a positive reaction before your personality has even had time to do the work. This matters because attraction affects behavior in subtle ways. People do not always announce that they find someone attractive. Many times, they simply become more generous around them, more attentive, more responsive, more eager to make a good impression. That is how attraction often shows itself in real life, not through dramatic compliments, but through slightly better treatment. And if strangers consistently give you that energy, it says something. You can see this in ordinary moments. Someone goes out of their way to help you. A cashier becomes friendlier than expected. A stranger starts a conversation a little too easily. Someone who owes you nothing seems unusually warm, respectful, or interested. One isolated moment means nothing. But when that pattern keeps repeating, pay attention. People are often responding to your face, your energy, or your overall presence before they know anything real about you. A lot of attractive people dismiss this sign because they assume attractiveness must look more obvious than this. They expect direct praise or open flirting, but many people are too reserved for that. Instead, attraction slips out through behavior. A little extra kindness, a little extra softness, a little extra effort. The person may not even be fully aware of why they are acting that way, They just feel more open toward you. And that response is often one of the clearest real-world signs that you are attractive. There is also a psychological reason people overlook this. When you have lived with your own insecurities for a long time, you stop trusting positive reactions. You explain them away. You minimize them. You tell yourself they would act this way with anyone, but that is not always true. People do not give the same energy to everyone. They respond differently depending on what they feel in someone's presence. And attraction often shapes those small differences more than words ever do. This does not mean every kind stranger is attracted to you. It simply means that unusual warmth from strangers can be a real signal, especially when it keeps happening without you doing much to earn it. Your presence may be opening doors before your words ever get there, and that is not something to ignore. So if strangers often seem softer, kinder, and more responsive around you than expected, stop assuming it means nothing. Attraction is not always loud. Sometimes it appears in the way the world becomes slightly warmer when you walk into it. The sixth sign: you catch people staring at you. One of the clearest signs you are attractive is simple. You catch people looking at you when they think you will not notice. Not just once in a random moment, but as a pattern. You look up and someone looks away. You turn your head and someone has been watching a little too long. You enter a place and you can feel eyes landing on you before any conversation even begins. That does not happen for no reason. People stare when something about you pulls their attention more strongly than they expected. A lot of people misread this sign because they assume staring must always mean something negative. They think, maybe something looks wrong, maybe I seem awkward, maybe people are judging me. But that is often insecurity talking. In many cases, staring is not criticism. It is interest. It is attention that stayed a second longer than politeness usually allows. And that usually means there is something about your face, your energy, your body language, or your overall presence that is registering strongly. This is especially true when it keeps happening in normal settings. Not on a stage, not when you are dressed in some extreme way, not when you are doing anything loud, just in ordinary life, at a cafe, in a store, walking in somewhere, sitting quietly. If people keep watching you when you are simply existing, that matters. Attraction often looks like this before it looks like compliments. People notice first. They look first. Their attention moves toward you before they even know what they would say. And the truth is, many attractive people stay blind to this sign because they are too harsh on themselves. They live inside their own insecurities, so they assume attention must mean something bad. They do not realize that the very thing they overthink about themselves may be part of what makes them striking to someone else. What feels ordinary to you can feel magnetic from the outside. What you have become used to, other people are still seeing fresh. You may have noticed the pattern already. Someone keeps glancing in your direction during a group setting. A stranger looks more than once. Someone seems to track your presence even when they are pretending not to. Those moments are easy to dismiss individually. But when they repeat, they start telling the truth. People do not stare at everyone the same way. If they keep staring at you, your presence is landing more strongly than you think. This also explains why some attractive people receive less direct praise than expected. Not everyone is bold enough to say what they notice. A lot of people just look. They hold the attention silently. They become more aware of you than they meant to. So if you have been waiting for attraction to show up only through words, you may be missing one of the strongest signs right in front of you. So stop brushing it off every time you catch someone staring. Yes, sometimes it means nothing. But when it happens often, it usually means something very clear. You are drawing attention without trying. And attraction that creates attention before words is usually more real than the kind that needs to be announced. The seventh sign: some people feel intimidated by your presence. Another sign you are attractive is that some people do not become warm around you. They become tense, a little guarded, a little distant, a little too serious. And if you do not understand what is happening, you may assume they dislike you or that you did something wrong. But sometimes the truth is simpler. Your presence affects them more than they are comfortable admitting. Attraction does not always create softness. Sometimes it creates intimidation. This happens more than people realize. When someone finds you attractive, striking, or unusually noticeable, they do not always respond with confidence. Sometimes they feel exposed. They compare themselves. They become more self-conscious. They worry about how they look next to you, how they sound around you, or whether they can hold your attention. And because of that, their energy changes. They may seem colder than they really are. More formal, more distant, less natural. Not because you are doing anything wrong, but because your presence is making them aware of themselves. A lot of attractive people misread this sign badly. They think, if I were really attractive, people would always be friendly, open, and easy with me. But that is not true. Attraction can create admiration, and admiration can create tension. Some people do not know how to relax around someone they perceive as beautiful, confident, elegant, or hard to reach. So instead of leaning in, they pull back a little. Instead of becoming smoother, they become more rigid. Instead of showing interest, they protect their ego. You can often see this in small ways. Someone seems oddly serious around you while acting normal with everyone else. Someone speaks to you with a slightly sharper tone than necessary. Someone looks at you but does not fully open up. Someone acts unimpressed in a way that feels forced. These reactions are easy to take personally, but sometimes they are not about you in a negative way. Sometimes they are the reaction of a person who feels your presence and does not know how to handle it comfortably. This becomes even clearer when the pattern repeats with different people. Different personalities, same kind of guarded energy. Not everyone, of course, but enough that you start noticing it. Some people are warm immediately. Others seem slightly intimidated before they even know you. That usually means your presence has weight. It is affecting the room before your personality has had time to explain itself. And this is why self-perception can be so misleading. You may still be focused on your flaws, your awkwardness, your insecurities, your overthinking. Meanwhile, other people are reacting to the version of you they see from the outside. The face, the posture, the calmness, the energy, the presence. And from that angle, you may feel more powerful, more noticeable, or more attractive than you feel from within. So if some people seem unusually guarded, tense, or slightly intimidated around you, do not assume it always means rejection. Sometimes it means the opposite. It means your presence carries more impact than you realize. And attraction does not always make people come closer with ease. Sometimes it makes them step back first, simply because they feel you more than they expected. The eighth sign: you get unexpected attention online. Another sign you are attractive is that you get attention online that feels a little bigger than it should be. People like your photos quickly. They watch your stories without missing much. Strangers follow you out of nowhere. Some posts do better than expected even when you did not put that much effort into them. And no, this does not mean every bit of online attention equals beauty. But when the pattern is consistent, it usually says something real. Your face, your presence, or your overall vibe is landing more strongly than you think. A lot of people miss this sign because they compare themselves to influencers, celebrities, or people who are clearly trying very hard to be seen. That comparison ruins perspective. The real question is not whether you dominate the internet. The question is whether you receive more attention than your level of effort would normally explain. If you post something simple and it still pulls eyes, replies, reactions, or quiet interest, that matters. Attraction often works like that online too. It creates curiosity before people even know much about you. You can usually see it in small patterns. Certain pictures get more response than expected. People who barely interact with others suddenly interact with you. Strangers watch closely but say very little. Some people keep showing up around your content even when you are not posting anything dramatic. That kind of quiet digital attention often says more than loud compliments. It means there is something about the way you look or carry yourself that keeps people coming back. This matters because online spaces remove a lot of the usual filters. In real life, people may hide interest better. They may feel shy, intimidated, or too careful to show what they notice. Online, that barrier gets thinner. People stare longer. They revisit. They follow. They react more easily. So if you keep getting attention that feels slightly out of proportion to your effort, do not dismiss it too fast. It often means your attractiveness is translating even through a screen. And sometimes the strangest part is this. You may not even be trying to look impressive. You may post casually, naturally, without chasing validation, and still attract attention. That is what makes the sign meaningful. Forced attention is easy to explain. Natural attention is not. If people keep responding when you are not performing for them, your presence is already doing more work than you realize. There is also a reason attractive people often doubt this sign. They think online attention only counts if it is huge, obvious, and impossible to ignore. But that is not true. Attraction often shows up in softer ways. Repeat viewers, quiet followers, consistent engagement, unexpected interest from people who have no clear reason to be that tuned in. Those things matter, especially when they keep happening. So if you get more online attention than seems normal for the amount of effort you give, stop assuming it is random. Sometimes the screen makes one truth clearer than the mirror does. People are seeing something in you that you may still be too critical of yourself to fully believe. The 9th sign, you receive fewer compliments than expected. This one surprises a lot of people. Sometimes being attractive does not mean hearing it all the time. Sometimes it means the opposite. You receive fewer compliments than expected, and because of that, you start assuming you must not be that attractive after all. But that is not always true. In many cases, highly attractive people get fewer direct compliments because others assume they already hear it all the time, or because saying it out loud feels too exposing, too obvious, or a little intimidating. That is why this sign gets misunderstood so easily. You think attraction should always come with constant praise, constant reassurance, constant direct attention. But people do not always respond that way. Some admire silently. Some look, but never speak. Some feel too shy to say anything. Some assume complimenting you would be unnecessary because in their mind, you already know. And some people hold back because your presence makes them feel slightly self-conscious. So the absence of frequent compliments does not always mean the absence of beauty. Sometimes it means your effect is stronger than people are comfortable expressing directly. You can see this clearly when attention exists, but praise does not match it. People look at you, they remember you, they act nervous around you, they seem unusually aware of you, but they do not actually say much. That gap matters. It often means people are noticing more than they are verbalizing, and that is common. Attraction does not always come through words. Very often, it comes through behavior first. Through attention, energy shifts, curiosity, and subtle reactions that never become a spoken compliment. There is also another layer to this. Some people become stingier with compliments when they find someone very attractive because praise feels like giving away too much. It makes them feel vulnerable. It reveals interest. It risks rejection. So instead of expressing what they notice, they stay quiet. They may even act neutral on purpose. And if you are measuring your attractiveness only by how often people directly praise you, you can completely miss what is actually happening. A lot of attractive people also carry a false belief. If I were really attractive, people would constantly tell me. But real life is not that simple. Many beautiful, striking, memorable people walk around doubting themselves because the attention they receive is subtle instead of verbal. They get watched more than praised, noticed more than complimented, remembered more than reassured. And because human beings often trust spoken words more than silent reactions, they underestimate their own effect. So if you receive fewer compliments than you think you should, do not rush to take that as proof against your attractiveness. Look at the full picture. Look at how people react. Look at how often you are noticed, remembered, stared at, or quietly treated differently. Sometimes the strongest sign is not what people say. It is what they cannot quite hide. The truth is, not everyone compliments what they strongly feel. Some people just carry it silently. And if your presence keeps creating reactions that words never fully catch up to, that may not be a lack of attractiveness at all. It may be proof that people notice more than they admit. The 10th sign: you are much harder on yourself than others are. One of the biggest reasons attractive people do not realize their own effect is simple. They judge themselves far more harshly than other people ever do. You see every flaw up close, every awkward angle, every bad photo, every tired expression, every small detail that nobody else is studying the way you study it. And because you live inside that constant self-observation, your view of yourself becomes distorted. You stop seeing the full impression and start obsessing over tiny things that other people either do not notice or do not care about nearly as much. This is why self-perception can be so unreliable. You are not seeing yourself the way strangers see you. You are seeing yourself through memory, insecurity, comparison, and habit. You are comparing your worst angles to other people's best moments, your off days to their polished images, your private doubts to their public confidence. And from inside that mindset, of course, it becomes easy to believe you are less attractive than you really are, not because it is true, but because you have been looking at yourself through a critical lens for too long. Meanwhile, other people are having a very different experience of you. They are not analyzing every detail. They are taking in the whole picture. Your face, your energy, your smile, your eyes, your presence, the way you move, the way you make them feel. That is how attraction usually works in real life. It is not a brutal close-up examination. It is an overall impression. And the overall impression you leave may be far stronger than the one you keep giving yourself in your own head. This is why so many attractive people stay unconvinced even while signs keep appearing around them. They get noticed. People stare. Others feel nervous around them. Strangers are kind. They get remembered easily. Attention follows them without much effort. But because their inner voice is harsher than reality, they keep dismissing all of it. They keep thinking, if people really saw me the way you say, I would feel it. But that is the mistake. Attractiveness is not always something you feel from the inside. Sometimes it is something other people keep reacting to while you are busy doubting it. Being hard on yourself can also make you miss your own strongest qualities. You may focus on what is not perfect and completely overlook what is actually striking. Maybe it is your eyes, your expression, your softness, your calmness, your bone structure, your smile, your presence, your uniqueness. Attractive people are not always attractive because they are flawless. Many times they are attractive because something about them feels distinct and alive. But self-criticism is blind to that. It keeps searching for defects and ignores impact. So if you have spent years being tougher on yourself than anyone else is, take that seriously. Your self-judgment is not always insight. Sometimes it is distortion. Sometimes the problem is not that your attractiveness is missing. It is that your inner voice has been too critical to let you see it clearly. And that may be the final sign. If the world keeps reacting to you more positively than your own mind does, then the issue may not be your appearance at all. The issue may be that you have been standing too close to yourself for too long. Sometimes other people see your beauty more honestly than you do. Attraction is not always obvious from the inside. That is the truth. You can be attractive and still doubt yourself. Attractive and still overthink your flaws. Attractive and still miss the way people react to you because you are too used to your own face, your own insecurities, and your own inner criticism. But the signs are often there. People notice you before you speak. They get nervous around you. They remember you. They stare. They treat you differently. They give attention even when you are not trying. And sometimes the biggest proof is not what you see in the mirror, but how the world keeps responding to your presence. That is why confidence should not be built only on your mood or your self-judgment. Some days your mind will lie to you. Some days insecurity will speak louder than reality, but reality still leaves clues. And when those clues keep repeating, maybe it is time to stop assuming that your harshest opinion of yourself is the truth. Maybe you are not invisible. Maybe you are not as ordinary as you think. Maybe the reason you do not fully see your own attractiveness is simply because you have spent too long looking at yourself through doubt instead of through the quiet evidence around you. So let this be your reminder. Attraction is not always loud. It is not always about compliments, perfection, or trying to impress people. Sometimes it is in your presence, your energy, the way people notice you, and the way you stay in their minds after the moment passes. And if these signs keep showing up in your life, stop dismissing them so quickly. The world may already be seeing something in you that you are still learning how to believe.